There is a flurry of activities taking place in Guyana's indigenous communities, over 240 of them. Funding for these projects falls under the second phase of Guyana's low-carbon development strategy, the LCDS, the blueprint by which Guyana intends to push development through activities that have minimum to little impact on the environment. The first phase of the LCDS was funded through a bilateral partnership with the Kingdom of Norway. Funds from that agreement is now being used to help indigenous communities develop village plans, and that was the reason for a small but significant gathering Wednesday night in Georgetown. The Secretariat of the National Two-House Council, the NTC, the only legal entity that represents all indigenous peoples, will help the villages develop their plans, though individual villages determine their projects. It has helped just a few villages in the past, but now it's getting money, over $600 million, to help all villages develop not just ad hoc one-year plans, but 10-year plans. That's good news for the NTC because it will allow villages to benefit seamlessly from funding over the long term through the second phase of the LCDS. For the Chief of Chiefs of Guyana's indigenous peoples, that's significant because the funding is helping to turn ideas into reality.
We have positive impacts on the indigenous peoples of Guyana, and it gives us that security knowing that we will have projects that can able to support us as we develop food security projects, protecting our natural resources, and so many other fields.
The villages, in keeping with the principle of free, prior and informed consent, determine what they want. Ryan Tulsiram, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Amerindian Affairs, explains how the collaboration between the government and the villages works.
So Bethany Village, in order to access their funding from the LCDS, Tushao Sonia had to call a village general meeting, sat with her residents, and discuss a way forward, craft a plan that the village will then utilize to access the LCDS funds. In the absence of this plan, the village cannot access the LCDS funds because there would be no document to guide the spending.
This point was underscored by Pradeepa Bollanot, Senior Director for Climate and RED Plus at the Ministry of Natural Resources.
The way that that is going to be invested will be determined by village, expressed by village, decided by villages in keeping with the Amerindian Act, and then implemented and monitored by villages themselves.
The funding the National Two-House Council is receiving to help villages develop plans is significant, considering that its subvention is just $40 million a year. So the funding it is getting for this specific activity is 5 times that.
The project is for $3 million over 3 years. And it is going to last for this year, next year, and the year after that. And it's going to effectively enable the NTC to have adequate resources to go out on field trips, to have the kind of vehicles they need, to be able to have the office space and to the resources for the office for meetings, consultations, and importantly, to be on the ground in villages with villagers, to develop the kinds of projects with them, help them to do so, but driven by the villages in a true process of self-determination.
At the launch of the project Wednesday was the Norwegian ambassador. Norway entered into a forest-saving agreement with Guyana hinged on maintaining one of the lowest deforestation rates in the world, bringing into being the Guyana RED Plus Investment Fund, GRIF.
For Norway, a top priority in this new phase of Guyana's RED Plus journey is securing a transparent and effective project implementation of ongoing projects funded by the Guyana RED Plus Investment Fund, the GRIF. That includes making sure that the projects deliver for Guyana's indigenous peoples and recognize their crucial role in forest management.
The second phase of the low-carbon development strategy is being funded through the sale of the carbon stored in Guyana's trees. That carbon is estimated to be over 19 gigatons, and keeping the trees standing is important because if the trees are cut down, that carbon dioxide would be released into the atmosphere and further worsen the climate crisis, because it is gases like carbon dioxide that is causing temperatures to rise, bringing about extreme weather events like devastating floods and wildfires. Guyana has said 15% of the funds it receives through commercial agreements in the sale of carbon will go to indigenous communities. For last year alone, that meant the distribution of $3.8 billion. Reporting for the newsroom, Neil Marks.